That might mean making American cities walkable. It means something different to each of us, and that's actually great. It's fantastic to have that diversity of intellectual perspectives in the classroom. So you're probably asking, okay, but what actually is it? And we think of urban technology now, after being at this for a handful of years, as really a new liberal arts for the urban era. And so what that means is that the degree is designed as a platform for all sorts of different types of students who really care passionately about cities. Some folks graduate high school and they know they want to be an architect, and that's great. We have a degree for them. But a lot of students just know that they're passionate about urban environments and they don't know yet where that's going to take them. Will it be entrepreneurship? Will it be working at a tech company? Will it be becoming the mayor, for instance? And so UT is meant as a collector or a platform for all of those perspectives in the same classroom. If we think about the why of this degree, one of the questions that's on the minds of the parents and students who are considering it is, of course, what happens afterwards. And so, just to share with you a sense of where our students have been going, there's kind of two big categories of roles. The first are built environment companies like AECOM or Gensler, some of the largest architecture, design, and planning firms in the world. The next bucket are tech companies. I think you'll probably recognize some of the names here, places like Microsoft or Rocket Mortgages or General Motors in a technical capacity at GM. And then, of course, some of our students also are pursuing further education in the form of grad school. And what we've seen to date is students go on to study information science like UI UX or urban planning at universities like NYU, USC, Columbia, UPenn, Berkeley, Northwestern, Carnegie Mellon, essentially the other universities that are at the same level as University of Michigan. And in fact, some of our students are also considering continuing studies here, which is a great option as well. So that's just a little sense of where students might take what they learn here in our curriculum. But I also want to answer this question of why urban technology is important for the world. And this, I think, is pretty critical. So this scene that you see right now of some robots on a sidewalk trying to navigate between each other, but having a difficult time, that is the story of urban technology or technology in general landing in the built environment. And there's a famous quote from business school that culture eats strategy for breakfast by Peter Drucker, kind of legendary business professor. And what that means is you can have a great idea, but unless people really believe it and make it happen as a culture, it's not going to change the organization. And I think in the urban technology space, we could rephrase this as the sidewalk eats technology for lunch. It can be one thing to say, hey, we should have robots delivering things and make it easier for people. But actually turning that into a reality is a really hard technical challenge. It's a really hard urban challenge, and it's a really hard policy challenge. And so we think it's important that there's a place where people can focus on that intersection of issues, and that's what UT is about. So when we come back to this idea of urban technology, I want to break it down into four different areas that I'd like to share a little bit more about in detail tonight. The first is collaboration. The second is what we mean about cities. The third is what we mean about technology itself. And the fourth is about design and our unique approach to design. So on collaboration, this is something we take really seriously because the work that your students do or that you as students will do after you graduate is inevitably going to be collaborative. Almost nothing happens in a modern society with a single actor. It's all about who you can work with and how you can work well with them. So we build collaboration into our curriculum in a number of different ways. One is through project work, like this example that you see on the screen of students building an idea for a city from scratch on paper on a huge wall-sized mural. The second is project work. So that prior image, those were first-year students. This is an example of project work from seniors who, in this case, were creating a plant sensor that helps people know when they need to take care of the natural landscape. We're using the public presentation of projects as a forum for feedback, which is what you see happening in this image. Students in one of our early studio courses getting responses from folks who are on our faculty and also in industry, learning how to collaborate through that feedback. Cohort building is really important. It's easier for you to work together when you know the people that you're sitting next to. And that's something that happens on trips like this, which is part of the first year experience. These students are out and about, in this case in Grand Rapids, learning about the realities of being an urban entrepreneur trying to solve the problem of food deserts. Cities are obviously a critical piece of this. And when we think about how we teach about cities, it's really two sides. It's both the physical reality of urban systems and also the way that decisions get made. So, for instance, every first year student goes on a series of field trips. In the past, that's been Cleveland, Chicago, and Detroit. These days, we're using Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Chicago. Ann Arbor is a day trip around town where we're looking at the city in a new level of detail. In Detroit, we take an overnight trip and look at parks and public space. And in Chicago, we're trying to understand the mobility networks and what it means to move through an urban environment. All of this is aimed at teaching our students about how cities work. So for the physical systems like land use and infrastructure that these students are exploring in Ann Arbor, that's also mirrored then in the way that the decisions happen in places like City Hall. Who are the stakeholders? What are the institutions? What are the processes? So there are very, let's call them traditional ways in which decisions get made at places like local government, but there's also an important role for the private sector. So for instance, the project that Jonathan Massey was standing in front of, Michigan Central, our students visited 3 years ago when it was under construction and still somewhat of a glimmering dream in the eyes of the Ford Motor Company. So what you see here is those students on that field trip learning about the project that Jonathan was visiting today. Likewise, these are students on a recent trip to San Francisco as part of a leadership trek that they applied to and were accepted to. They're learning about the ferry system in the San Francisco Bay Area from the operator of that ferry, Seamus, who's standing in the center of the image, while on the ferry transiting across the bay. And so we're trying to use cities as the place that we learn about how cities work. It's a natural fit, of course. And that's as much something that we do as something that the students do themselves. And so these postcards that you see on this image are from students that they sent back to our collective Slack channel, celebrating the places that they were exploring over spring or summer break. Next is technology. My goal when I think about how we educate students on technology is perhaps counterintuitive. It's that by the end of their required courses in tech, the students feel like it's actually pretty boring. It's just something that we have to be able to work with. It's 2026. It's not really a choice. It's kind of like electricity was, in a prior generation or few. And so when we think about tech, it means having some experience, getting your hands dirty, learning how to program in Python in this case, but keeping that programming activity always in relationship to what are we coding and why is it something that needs to be created? And so that's the sketch activity that you see in front of the student on the screen. That interplay between how we make it a reality and what needs to be a reality is really important for all sorts of reasons. But one of them is that that is a thing that does not get eaten by AI. That's something that humans will always be driving because it's about how we want to live and how we want to be supported as a community and how we want to support our communities. So the technical piece is about the how and the what. This is an example from one of the electives. These students were using some AI and Internet of Things tools to create prototypes like this bedside calendar that's projected onto the wall of Devon's bedroom, giving her an update of what she should expect for the day. This is actually a recent Slack message that a student sent me, basically saying that they have been accepted to grad school at Virginia Tech, which is awesome for Joshua, and that they were able to secure a great fellowship because of the technical skills that they had. And so, what I think this speaks to is the technical baseline of urban planning, architecture, real estate development, the kind of traditional fields that a place like Taubman College has served, is comparatively low when we look at it next to what the urban tech students are learning. And so they end up being competitive in new ways for jobs, even in those traditional firms, because they're able to bring things like data science and user research into a context that frankly doesn't have as much of it. And I told Joshua that I would put this in a slide, and I really meant it. I'm super proud of him for getting this fellowship and finding a real practical application for the skills that he's been developing. So then finally, design. And I want to be careful here to unpack what it means for design in the context of urban technology at a school of architecture and planning. And so the way I think about it is that good design translates to good research. And in fact, good design doesn't happen without good research. So this takes many forms. This could be ethnographic research, like learning how to talk to and interview members of a neighborhood to understand what their needs and aspirations are. This could mean journey mapping, understanding how somebody moves through a task or a process and where the pain points are. This could be stakeholder analysis. So digging into a problem deeply enough that you understand who the different sets of stakeholders are and where they might have some alignments, but also some potential points of tension or friction between them. Making maps and diagrams so that we can visualize what we're learning and help us understand it anew through that visualization. Sometimes that's data visualization, like this project from an elective course that students built this interactive viewer of taxi trip data to try to understand how people move across New York. Or doing usability analysis of existing technical tools, like this, which is looking at the flow of how you use an app in Ann Arbor to say, hey, there's an issue in my neighborhood. And all of that research effort comes to a point of synthesis. You can do research all day long for years, but if you can't boil it down into a what do we need to do about this, it doesn't matter. And so that's what this slide is about. These students looked at the process of community engagement in Detroit, and their conclusion, TLDR, was that nobody wants to be at a community meeting. The developers feel attacked, the community members feel ignored, and that venue doesn't achieve what it on its face should be able to achieve. And so they took that then as the starting point for the project that they developed, which was some alternative ways to do engagement using a whole set of different technological tools. So when we pivot into the making, the students are looking at making digital products, like redesigning the tool that I showed previously of how you file an issue with your neighborhood in Ann Arbor to make it more user-friendly. They're also thinking about the kind of business and operational context around digital products. This is imagery actually from New Lab, which is a facility in Detroit where I'm sitting currently, where our students were presenting back to the client for their course, which was the state of Michigan. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation had asked them to help the state think about how Michigan might be a place where you could become a local faster than any other state in the country. And so we really like the idea of the students thinking beyond the screen and also working as much as possible with real partners who are out in the world thinking through real issues. The best projects bring together some aspect of digital design, physical, spatial thinking, and organizational, or policy thinking. And so this is a project where the students were really taking on a challenge of what it means to be a child in Detroit neighborhoods and how to make the lifestyle or the possibilities of a child exploring their neighborhood safer and therefore more common. And it touched on all three aspects of that triangle that I mentioned. Uh, the students really are asked in each of the studio courses that they take to formulate a question. And so this is one that came from a project last semester. How might we design a community-focused interface to facilitate the use or management of distributed energy resources? What that means is when it's every day that people have solar panels on their roof and batteries in their neighborhood, how do we take that from being something that enables one family to have resilience to being a tool for the neighborhood itself, or maybe just the block, to thrive together? And what the students came up with was an idea that there's probably some amount of sharing between people who are within that community, and that actually the interface has a big impact on whether that sharing is zero sum, me versus you, or if it's something that can be genuinely an opportunity to build community. And so this is an example of where we think urban technology becomes very real. It's stuff that might not be commonplace for each of us today, but is very imaginable in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and that is not just a technology that will land in our neighborhoods, but something that's going to be part of the fabric of what it means to be a neighbor, a member of a community, or a person participating in democracy. And so this project, I'm really proud to say, these students were accepted into an exhibition in Milan, and they are shortly heading there to install this thing that you see on the table, which is a kind of physical demonstration of the app that they designed. So we spend just a minute to talk about the how. A lot of this happens in the studio space, which you see here. It's very similar to a kind of architectural or design studio environment meant to facilitate open collaboration and dynamic work. That's within Taubman College. So our urban tech students are next to the architecture students, people studying real estate, urban planning, urban design. We're in the same building as folks studying art and design. We're across the street from the School of Information and the College of Engineering. So it's a really nice set of kind of adjacent disciplines that are on North Campus. And then, of course, I don't need to tell you that all of this is within the broader context of the University of Michigan, where we have top ranking professors and departments in basically every subject. It's one of the true joys, actually, of working here is that it can be sociology or, detailed aspects of medical practice, but I can find a colleague on campus who is one of the best. So just to give you a sense of how we deliver this, this is the list of required courses. There's a set of gen ed requirements that are taken often at LSA. And then there's a set of technical requirements that are developed in collaboration with the School of Information. And the rest of the required courses, the ones that stayed on the left, are our courses here at Taubman. So we really want the students to take advantage of the fullness of campus. And in fact, many of them have some kind of minor or two minors or a double major or some combination thereof. And so we see our students really do take advantage of the best of what Michigan has to offer. From my perspective as the faculty director, one of the things that is probably right up there, working with the students is awesome because there's so much optimism and energy and just excitement. And then the other thing that's been really gratifying in my role has been building the team to make this all possible. And so you see on the screen here, just 8 of the folks who are teaching in the degree. I'm not going to call out each of them, but just as some examples, Matthew Wazinski on the bottom left is the faculty member that's going to Milan with those students that I mentioned previously. Shengheng Li on the top row is teaching a course in design ethnography right now and leading a collaboration with General Motors. And so it's just cool to see how everybody in the teaching team are taking it in their own directions and bringing their own expertise to this program that we've created. So I'm going to stop there and say, I guess I'll echo what my colleague said, which is, congratulations. And I know everybody has lots of choices, frankly, about where you want to study. Um, as the final thoughts from my perspective, the things that we look for, that I look for, are, do you care about your community? And do you have a form of creativity that's important to you? And we take a very broad definition for both of those. So you can care about your block or your neighborhood. You can care about your church group or a sports team that you're on. You can care in many different ways, but we want to know that you care about some kind of community. And likewise, on the creativity front, that might be a classic definition of creativity, like you're great at drawing or designing things. Or it could equally be that you're entrepreneurial, that you're journalistic, and you love writing. We welcome all forms of creativity, but we really think this is a good combination for people who are at the intersection of care and creativity. And so thank you so much for being here. And I'm just really happy to talk through whatever questions you have and get into the details.
Thanks, Brian. I think next, while some of you generate your questions, you can certainly put them in the chat, but I am going to turn things over to the students that are here who are studying urban technology and let them introduce themselves. So I'll just call on each of you and you can give a little bit of a rundown about yourself. So we'll start with Nevaeh.
Hi, my name is Nevaeh. I'm a first year here at Taubman in the Urban Technology program. I'm double minoring in architecture and real estate development as well. Um, yeah, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and if you have any questions about like first year foundational experience, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thanks, Nevaeh. Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a senior in the Urban Tech program with a minor in real estate development, a minor in business, and I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And Catherine, do you want to just quickly mention that what's your employment status and when do you
Oh,
graduate?
yes. So yeah, after graduation, I'll be going back to Pittsburgh and I will be working at the company. I have a full-time job offer for the company I entered at last summer, which is a smaller company based out of Pittsburgh that does real estate development and like property management. But my task will be basically co-managing this home ownership initiative.
Great. Thanks, Catherine, and congratulations. All right, Aloria.
It might be a little laggy, so let me know.
You're good.
But I'm Aloria. I'm a junior in the Urban Technology program studying real estate development.
And where are you from?
I am from Royal Oak, Michigan.
All right. And Daniel.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm currently a sophomore in the Urban Technology program. I'm planning on double minoring in human-centered AI and business, and I'm coming from the Greater Toronto area in Ontario, Canada.
Thanks, Daniel. All right. Well, we'd like to open it up for questions. You can either put your questions in the chat or you can unmute and or raise your hand. And we will just await some questions to come in. It can be for Brian or for the students or about anything else, and we will talk you through those. We have any brave souls ready to go first? All right. While we wait for maybe the first question to come in, I'm going to call on Catherine since she is a senior. Catherine, do you want to share maybe either one highlight from the last 4 years or something that stands out to you from your studies?
Oh, goodness. I feel like there's so many in like different ways. I mean, I think like kind of definitely like lots of like great memories of in our classes we get to go on like field trips. So whether that be kind of our bigger one of our like multi-day trip to Chicago, or just like smaller ones in the Ann Arbor, Detroit area. It's been like so incredible to like, kind of get to really like see in person what it is that we're studying and to have more interactive projects. I think another really great thing is just how like you're in a cohort model, so you really get to know your fellow students, and also the Taubman College environment. You really get to know your professors as well. You get to have a very kind of close relationship that you don't typically have in other, the bigger, whether it be other universities or other even like colleges within University of Michigan.
Thanks, Catherine. All right. Our first question came in. So from Henry, is there a way to get an accelerated MS in urban planning? Brian, do you want me to tackle that or would you like to?
Go for it.
Okay. So Henry, thanks for your question. We do not currently have any opportunity for you to do an accelerated Master in Urban and Regional Planning. That is the name of our master's degree, abbreviated MERP, here at Taubman College. But certainly, many of our students, as you heard Brian say, have gone on to apply for graduate programs in urban planning. I will say what we do offer is early admission into our Master of Urban and Regional Planning. So any of our seniors who are getting ready to graduate can apply in November and get their admissions decision in December to lock in at least one admission offer early in their career. Brian, do you want to talk at all about, I know that some of the courses in the master's program are cross-listed with urban technology. Maybe you could give a couple of examples.
Yeah, so the urban tech students have to take a set of electives at Taubman, and those are primarily a set of policy related courses. So you can take a course in transportation, in housing, in sustainability, in smart cities, and kind of economic development aspects. And all of those are courses that are offered at the graduate level, and we've created undergraduate versions of them. So there's a healthy amount of opportunity for learning about urban planning in general, in addition to the urban tech that we're doing. And it's something that, as Christopher mentioned, we're seeing, I'll say like, I actually expected more of our students to go on to, for instance, like an MBA kind of pathway. But it's been a pleasant surprise that students are really excited about public service and urban planning as a career pathway.
Thanks, Brian. And students, if any of you want to chime in with any points of view from where you sit, please jump in. There are a few more questions that came in. So the next one is, are internships incorporated into the curriculum and or how many students get internships while studying? Brian, do you want to maybe take that and then tee it off to any student who has had an internship?
Yeah, actually, let's just ask the students first, and then I can come back to it. So, Catherine mentioned she spent last summer working at a development firm inside Pittsburgh. What did you have in the summer before that?
I just worked like a regular like restaurant job and
Okay.
nanny that summer. So
Yeah,
um yeah, nothing
cool.
like super applicable the summer before.
Okay. Aloria, what about you?
Yeah, I can talk on mine. So I actually currently have an internship right now during the school year. That's where I'm working at. I hope I'm not lagging. You let me know. That's where I'm working at a apartment complex, working for property management. And then this summer I'll be working for acquisitions and estimating for Wallbridge in downtown Detroit, Campus Martius.
Cool. Daniel, did you have an internship last summer?
I didn't have one last summer, but for this summer, I have one lined up. I'm going to be doing community engagement in Ontario, so back home. And for that, I'm essentially going to be doing a lot of transit advocacy and essentially encouraging bus ridership in Ontario, and specifically in like the Niagara Falls region.
Cool. Nevaeh, since you're a first year student, it would be understandable if you don't have something lined up for the summer, but I'll give you the chance to chime in if you do.
I do not yet, but we're working
Not
on
yet. Okay.
it.
Yeah. So, trying to see who's asking. Kieran, internships are not something that the university can set up for each of the students, but you just heard a sampling of what students have been doing on their own. what we do is we spend a good amount of time connecting with alums. And one of the great things about the university is we have 70,000 alums across the universe, basically, not all from Taubman, from the university as a whole. And so, we've had folks who come to us and say, oh, like I get these emails or these calls. I wish that I could have studied urban tech when I was a student. And my response is the next best thing is to hire one. So what kind of role do you have on your team that you can accommodate one of our students? And so that's included, like I'm looking at the list here. So we've had students at Code Labs, which is a local startup that does energy monitoring in buildings, Lightbox, which is a data platform that powers things like Google Maps, um, Rocket Mortgage, which is a large company here, Sasaki, which is a big urban planning firm, Toll Brothers, which is a big housing developer. So, at the end of the day, urban technology, we're very proud of it. But coming as a Michigan student and with the Michigan reputation and access to the Michigan Alumni Network is one of the things that I see being most meaningful for the students in terms of finding opportunity. And so it's something that I couldn't give you a number, but a lot of our students end up being busy in their summer. And of course, the summer between junior and senior year is probably the best in terms of internship outcomes. And then each summer before that is a little bit different. And people use the opportunity to do things like work a job that's maybe not urban tech, but save some money and use that to go traveling or use it to give a little bit of cushion for the school year, that type of stuff.
Thanks, Brian. And just to add to that, we do have two, soon to be probably three staff members in our college who specifically work with all of our architecture and urban technology students on their career development. So helping find internships, getting your resume ready, hosting career fairs and job fairs. So you will be well supported during your time here. All right, there's lots more questions that came in. So the next one from Ty, and there's a couple of questions about minors, but are minors in real estate development and business and other minors open to all urban tech students? And then the second part is, do you apply and get accepted for minors? So,
I guess I can answer because I think I'm the only business minor, and I guess I'm also real estate. So yeah, minors are open for all UT students. They're no longer required for your incoming cohort. They were for ours, so this is why I guess you'll see kind of why we all have them. I would definitely recommend doing a minor. So with real estate development, pretty much, I think every minor except business, you just have to declare it. Business, you do have to apply to that one. So I think it's at least last year, I think it was about a 50% acceptance rate. So like not too bad. You just like have to write like two short essays. Um, but yeah, for the most part, you just have to go to your advisor and declare it. So it's pretty simple.
and the real estate development minor is housed in Taubman College, but is offered jointly with the Ross School of Business because there are courses that come from a variety of different areas. All right, Henry's question. For students with little coding experience, what can they do in advance of arriving at U of M to be prepared for that aspect of the program?
I mean, the honest answer is you don't have to do anything. So there are some online courses that we share out during the summer that are great, and they're at University of Michigan, basically free offerings, or they're boot camp type things in many, many places. And to the extent that you want to spend part of your time preparing in that way, that's fantastic. But the set of technical courses assume that you do not know how to program.
For any of our current students, did any of you do any coding preparation prior to joining the program?
I can answer. I didn't do much. I will say that I was aware that we were going to be using Python as our primary coding language for our introduction classes. So I did just do a little bit of a deep dive on what those functions look like and structure, but the introduction to programming in Python class was it does assume that you have no experience at all, and it was really good at getting us to understand the language and the structure of the code.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Nevea. I did a few, I think, YouTube videos, like during, like beforehand, but I didn't really do any formal, actually, like Python knowledge or like training. I also just wanted to mention that, Colleen, who's the professor for, the intro coding class, she's really, really understanding and also just a really nice person. So it's definitely not a class where you kind of be thrown in and it's really hard. The professor is super, super understanding. I also currently one of the instructional aides for her. So if you like want some extra help, you can also feel free to reach out to me in the fall. So I definitely, yeah, the class that you'll take in the fall, like definitely do some preparation, if you want to, or if you just have some spare time. But just want to mention that like the professor is super, super kind.
Thanks, Daniel. All right, this question is for the students. If all of you could maybe take a stab at this one, what is, or how would you describe the intensity of projects in terms of careful time management and quality? And maybe you could talk about a specific project to give an example.
I guess I can start off considering you guys are going to be coming into like your first year. I would say the projects, in my opinion, aren't terribly like intense. I do think that the professors put in a lot of time to give you your like understanding of like urban systems and what it means to create a a good speculative design project. So I'm going to use UT 103, the Incomplete City, as a example, because those are going to be, we do speculative designs in that, and you're going to end up creating that mural that Brian showed you at the end of the course. But leading up to that, you have smaller ones where you have a sheet and you create like like a mobility hub, for example, and you learn about those urban systems. It's a collaborative, it's supposed to be a collaborative experience. So you're going to be working with one another in your cohort. And it's really important for you guys to come together and set up some times to meet up and kind of go over what it is that you guys want to include in your design based off the prompts. So uh, I think putting in that time to meet with one another, and if you need to go to office hours to ask extra questions, I definitely recommend it. But intensity, I wouldn't say they're too intense.
Catherine, do you want to give a flavor for what senior year is like in terms of project and time and quality and example?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, because obviously I'm a second semester senior, so I have only one like required urban tech class, and the other one is an elective. Um, and overall, yeah, definitely not very time consuming. Like it's again like our projects, it's not like some programs where you have some like all-encompassing like year-long capstone. You keep a pretty good work-life balance. When you're in like your studio sequence, those definitely do get far more, not like far more intensive, but definitely it does require there's a higher expectation of the quality of work that you have to put in the again like you something we often say with urban tech is that you truly do you get out of it what you put in. Um, so yeah. So like whether it be like again, like if you want to like become a total slave to your studio project and like not have a social life, sure you probably will have like some above and beyond project, but that isn't like you aren't expected to have no social life. You are just expected though to like be willing to put in effort, and being willing to like iterate. You have to kind of learn to fail and learn to fail fast.
So I have to say something on this question, even though I'm not a student and I wasn't called on. But I think I want to underscore what Katie just said, which is, one of the shifts that I see with students coming from high school into college in general, and then urban tech specifically, is that it's about learning to set your own boundaries and your own container for the work that you need to do, and also learning how to push yourself. So the urban tech professors are not going to give you a super long list of all the boxes that you have to check. They're going to give you a goal that you have to figure out how to meet. And that's the important work to do, is to figure out how to navigate ambiguity. In fact, that's one of the things that we as professors in the degree program have as a priority for our students, is that they learn how to deal with situations that are not fully defined and how to basically create their own tools to move forward. And the reason for that is very simple, is that's how the world works. That's what you're going to find when you leave. And so it is frankly an adjustment for many students, but it's an adjustment that I think is a really important one to make. And that's why it's intentionally part of our curriculum and the way that we teach.
Thanks, Brian. All right, we still have a few more questions. Thanks everyone for hanging in there. Since this is a newer bachelor's degree, what does the job market look like along with the salary expectations for this industry?
Yeah, I mean, so I alluded to it with the slide before, but there's kind of two camps that the graduates end up going to. And this is also a good place for me to say we've had one cohort graduate so far. Katie's a member of the second cohort that will graduate. So, the data points are still coming in. But those two camps that we see the students go to are broadly built environment roles, which is real estate development, urban planning, transportation planning, the kind of consultancy services, if you will, in that space, or to startups and tech companies. And the salary kind of tracks those two industries. So generally, tech roles have a higher salary than the built environment, just like across the board. And our students, I have actually not quizzed them on their salary levels, but I'm assuming that it's going to be very similar, that we would see, what our graduate who is at Fair and Piers in San Francisco is making is equivalent to what their colleagues are making. I think one of the things that we're finding, again, is that the skill set is unique. And so this is like TBD, but the thing that I expect that we see is that these students are able to have more opportunity when they're inside those firms, because they just have a different skill set compared to people who come through a more traditional built environment training. Or on the tech side, that when a technology company is doing something that is specifically urban, like say Lightbox that deals with urban data, that our students bring a domain expertise that the average computer science student doesn't have. And, this is also one of those things where as the technical skills get not fully commodified, but, we are starting to see some impact to the job market thanks to AI. And so having an intersection of enough know-how, but also enough know what, or knowledge of a domain, it's something that I think is important for our students to be able to find a way to navigate, again, the uncertainty that's ahead of all of us at every age level and every achievement level over the coming decade.
Thanks, Brian. There was a question from Henry about, do students tend to live on North Campus? And Aloria put that in the chat that the students are all over. Where you choose is based on your preference. And so on the housing application, if you want to live on Central Campus, you can rank that first. If you want to live on North Campus, your first 2 years, your classes will be both on North Campus and Central Campus typically. And then junior and senior year, you'll tend to have probably most of your classes in the art and architecture building, but it also depends on what minor you've selected and what courses you're taking. All right, there's a few more questions. This one is, you mentioned Toll Brothers. Any other large builders or developers that are collaborated with? So I'll start with that one, and then there's a part two of the question.
So, Jared, one of our students who graduated early last year went to Landmark in Atlanta. And actually, this is one of my favorite stories. So he goes to Landmark, which is a housing developer that works nationwide. And shortly after he gets there, he gets pulled into a task force to help the company think about how AI is going to affect their business. And when he was asking, like, I'm new here, why are you putting me on this, other than the fact that I'm new here and I have some capacity on my calendar? They said, well, you're from urban tech, so you should tell us what to do. So that's an example of another large developer. I'm trying to think of, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of a renewable energy developer that one of our students went to last year from that graduating class as well. But yeah, so there are a few places that people have gone to from the development perspective. And then you asked about scholarship opportunities, which I'll hand it back to Chris for actually to address that one.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. In terms of scholarship opportunities, we have very limited scholarships that are given to first year students, and those have been already distributed. But we do also maintain through our student affairs team, they maintain a database of fellowships and scholarships that become available either in the built environment or in the urban planning field. And so you will have 24/7 access to that database. The second part of that question was the possibility of finishing a semester early based on credits that you're starting with. Typically, the way the curriculum is set up is that because of the sequencing of the studios, typically it will be a 4-year program. The benefit of coming in with credits is that it gives you more flexibility and freedom to maybe do a double minor or do a minor and take classes in other areas. I don't know if any of our current students came in with any amount of credits either through AP, IB, or dual enrollment that you want to talk about your situation at all.
Yeah, I can answer that. I did dual enrollment in high school, so I came in with a significant amount of credits, prereq wise. So that's given me more opportunity this year to start on my double minor, very, very quickly. I've already kind of knocked out some real estate development classes and architecture as well. You can double count a UT course, and you could double count a UT course for architecture minor and real estate as well. So some of those courses that are electives for the real estate minor or the architecture minor are also in alignment with UT. Um, and as far as getting out in a semester early, like Chris said, it is our classes are lined up in a specific manner. So more than getting out early, I have started on my minor early.
Thanks, Nevaeh. I want to be respectful of time because we are at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and I'm going to just do a couple of wrap-up slides. And then for those of you that haven't had your questions answered and can stay on, or those that want to continue hearing the answers to the questions, we will answer them in the chat, but also verbally. So let me just share my screen really quick, and then we will wrap up for our day today. So, and thank you for, again, joining us. So in terms of your next steps, I just wanted to preview kind of what comes up next. So if you haven't already accessed, we do have an admitted student website just for our urban technology students. So you can scan the QR code. I'm sure most of you students have already gone there, but maybe your parents haven't seen the site. But there's lots of different links and information if you want to see examples of student work from the different studios. You want to know about computer requirements. All of that is on this website. So you can scan the QR code. You can also access it from your admission offer communication that we sent out. For those of you that might be near New York City, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, the Office of Undergraduate Admissions will be hosting 3 events in your town on these upcoming dates. So you're welcome to join there. I do know that we have at least 6 of our admitted students attending in New York City on the 19th. So that's a great way to meet some of your future classmates, and you can scan the QR code if you want to RSVP for one of those events. And then just wrapping up here, the important dates are May 1st is when your enrollment deposit is due. So you have between now and then to submit that to secure your place in the class. In late May, you will receive an email from our student affairs team about how to prepare for registration. And then between June 1st and 4th, we will do virtual advising days. And this is when you'll get instructions on how to register for classes and pick your classes and all of that. And then we will do in-person orientation August 1st or 27th. You'll have the choice of either date, and you'll get information from the Office of New Student Programs. That event is coordinated with us and them, so they will send you specific information on that. So with that, I do want to say thank you for coming to this event. We will continue to stay on for maybe another 5 minutes to answer some of the remaining questions. And I also will put in the chat that if you do have questions after today, always the best place to email us is taubmancollegeadmissions@umich.edu, and you can copy that from the chat. So let's go back up here. I know there was a question about are there any study abroad opportunities that tie in with urban tech? Brian, do you want to talk about that? Oh,
Yeah,
you already
so
mentioned it.
yeah, I answered in the chat, but we've had a number of students do it. To couple to Copenhagen. I actually was in Copenhagen for a business trip and got to meet some of our students who were there, which was really cool. So Copenhagen, Australia, Spain. We had a student go to Italy, if I remember correctly. So often what happens is it's junior year, winter semester, which is good. Escape a little bit of the cold weather. And then the students usually end up fulfilling some of the gen ed or electives. And so that gives them great freedom to think about where they want to study. Um, Finding required UT course matches at other schools is a little bit harder, honestly. But there's plenty of opportunity and lots of students do it. And for what it's worth, I think it's really great, right? So again, if we are focused on cities, probably the best way to learn about it is to spend time in other places. And so that comes back to the classroom and to our community as people who now know about all these other places and can bring those into conversations in class and outside of class, which is awesome.
Thanks, Brian. All right, it looks like we answered the rest of the questions via the chat. So I'll maybe just do one more call for any final questions, either from parents or students who want to know anything that we haven't covered.
I think there was one question we missed from Wesley about the getting minors outside
Oh,
of Tubman. So I think the question was just like, what's the process for getting minors outside Tubman, and if finding classes if difficult. I'd say getting minors outside of Tubman is just as easy as in Tubman. I already got accepted into the human-centered AI minor, and for that, all I had to do is pretty much just fill out a Google form with like around like 5 questions, just asking about like my major, my name, my academic advisor, and then I got approved for the minor, I think within 2 days. So for the mo vast majority of minors, they're really easy, and you pretty much just get auto accepted after you fill out the introductory forms. There's some minors where you have to apply to, like the business minor, where it's a bit more selective, but for the most part, for most minors, it's very easy to actually register for them. In terms of finding available classes, I'd say I personally haven't run into any issues, and a lot of times they're really good at taking students off the wait list. I registered for one of my required classes for the AI minor, and I was number 19 on the wait list. But the day after, they took me off the wait list with an override. So even if there's a lot of people on the wait list, I personally haven't had an issue with not being able to get into a class that I wanted.
thanks, Daniel, for that. I know there is a couple more questions came in. Is it easy to declare a double major outside of Taubman? Brian, have we had any examples of anybody doing dual degree?
Yeah, we've had a number of them. And of course, you want to know which dual degrees. And I would need to go look at the records, but basically, I have to sign the paperwork, and I know I've signed it multiple times. Um, so yes, it's totally possible. And like I was saying before, actually, sorry, I think Katie mentioned like many students have a minor or a double major, and it's one of those things where because University of Michigan is University of Michigan, like everybody's trying to do a ton of stuff, and so it's really common. Um, and it's a little, I think, easier to navigate the schedule Tetris, if you will. If you have some credits that you bring in, it just creates more freedom in your schedule, but it's possible.
Yeah, I should just clarify a couple things that are unique at U of M. So we actually don't call it double majoring. We actually call it dual degree. So you'll hear that language maybe used a little bit differently here. The other thing is that a dual degree will often take you one extra year. So it would be 5 years to do two dual degrees or to do the dual degree combination. So just keep that in mind. You can double count a certain number of courses, but you still have to fulfill a certain number of the requirements. There was a question from Brad. Are the study abroad trips covered by the college or do students pay a part of it? So,
Uh,
Brian, I think our
Go for it.
students, I think in some cases, as long as you're transferring credits back to Taubman College, I think typically you would be paying the tuition at that other school and then transferring it back in. And those all have to go through our student affairs team and also through the faculty to sign off on it. There is a for the trap. Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about the travel during the school year when it's a part of visiting the different cities, how that's handled?
Sure. So that's domestic travel. For instance, I mentioned to Chicago, and basically for that, the college is covering the transportation, the hotel, and some of the meals, and then students are paying for the remainder of the meals and any incidentals. For study abroad, since I see Brad's question, as Christopher suggested, you'd be paying the tuition for, studying, say, in Copenhagen, and then obviously the travel back and forth, that's also for you to figure out. Um, so so that's kind of clear. And then also on the prior question about the dual degree, so I just was looking it up while we were talking about another thing. And so some examples are dual degree between urban tech and mechanical engineering, or between urban tech and international studies, or surprising one, between urban tech and the performing arts. One of the things that I really enjoy is getting requests like that and saying, I don't know what this is going to mean, but let's find out, right? Like if you're passionate about it, awesome, let's do it.
The other thing that I'll say about study abroad is if, for example, you have an interest in architecture, we typically do spring travel courses every May and June. I don't think we've had any urban tech students take advantage of those, but those do come with a $1,500 travel grant provided by the college. And those are offered, again, every May and June. And the info sessions for those are typically held like in November and December, so you can go and explore. And, there may be a country you want to go to, or you want to learn a little bit more about the built environment, depending on the theme. One year, the summer of 2024, all of the spring travel courses were themed around climate, and climate action, climate change. So, all right, it looks like we have made it through the questions. Thank you all very much for your patience and for all of your excellent questions. We look forward to staying in touch with you between now and May 1st, and best wishes on making your decision. And for those of you that have already decided, we say go blue. Have a great night, everyone.